Good afternoon, Megan Smart. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am extremely grateful because you have the formula for seizing the conceptual gaze that captures the top-notch distinctions of the first letter of the alphabet and navigating in those last years from Amalia to Amelia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. I'm in sunny Queensland in Australia. It's about 30 degrees. I've been up, been to the beach, did my workout, living that coast lifestyle. It's beautiful here.
It is a beautiful landscape and you are living your best life, Megan Smart. And I discovered through watching those two characters that it is not only about replacing the third letter from A to E, but it is about crafting an experiences close to the ground, because you are redefining the growing cycle of a peanut.
That's right. Yeah, Amelia was a peanut farmer. I thought that was a really nice detail in Class of '07. And she had this key ring in the series, and it was this little peanut. There were all these little fun kind of hidden Easter eggs in the production design to hint at that.
Absolutely, Megan Smart. And I would love to discuss about Amelia, but also her brothers, Danny. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
So it was her husband that was Danny. God, it's so long ago, I'm trying to remember. So they had met when she was in high school. He was the groundskeeper, and they had started hanging out a little bit, and he wasn't that much older than her, but everybody made it out to be much more scandalous than it was. And when Zoe and Amelia stopped hanging out, or became a little bit more distant, Amelia started hanging out with Danny more, and they fell in love. And then when Amelia left school, I think they got together, and they had been working on the peanut farm, living their best life ever since that. And that's where we meet Amelia.
This is Megan Smart, the moment we meet Amelia. And since the moment I discovered that detail from the television series Class of '07, I became an expert when it comes to peanuts. And all the steps.
Me too. I had no idea how peanuts were grown, and then I was watching all these documentaries. They grow in the ground. I didn't know that until I did that show.
Absolutely, Megan Smart. But is it possible to consider the fact that you are also an expert if you don't know about the kernel development?
The kernel development. It's all part of the research package. You have to know what you're farming and know all about it. I mean, for me, I do anyway. Even if it doesn't come out, I need to know that.
Furthermore, Megan Smart, this specificity about the character of Amelia just shows how great this television series is, because we are going very deep into the storyline and the past of each character. And on a more global view, can you tell us a little bit more about your personal meaning of that piece of art called Class of '07?
Yeah, for sure. So I got this audition for the first time during COVID, and as an actor, you get a lot of auditions. Some of them you love, some of them you don't love so much. But when those scripts came to me, I loved them so much. I thought they were really funny. I thought they were so unusual. I hadn't seen anything like this coming out of Australia before, and I'd seen, there's a lot of shows about female friendship, and sometimes I can find them hard to relate to in a way because, it's a lot of braiding hair and sleepovers and things like that. But there was a vulgarity to this script that felt so real to me. It was the way that the names they called each other and how gross they spoke to each other that made it so much more relatable to me, because that's how I talk to my friends. Friends are the ones laughing at you when you fall over, not helping you up, that old saying. So it was a project that I was really excited for, and I did the audition. The first audition, I only auditioned for Amelia, and then a few weeks later, I did the callback for Amelia, and it was COVID, so it was over Zoom, and it was very quick. It was like 10 minutes, and then it was kind of over, and I did it with my best friend at the time. He came over and helped me read for it. He was behind the camera. I never like to have a Zoom reader in my auditions, because especially for comedy where it is about getting that perfect timing. Comedy is all about the timing, and if you have that someone reading over Zoom, as often you do in callbacks, they have a reader for you, the timing is lost, and I think the scene just falls apart. So I like to have someone in the room, and for me, that's what acting is, is having that immediacy with the other person and the relationship with the other person. And when I feel like I'm acting with someone over Zoom, it just doesn't feel real, and the magic is lost, and it's just not fun, So my best friend was there, and that kind of worked for the scene as well, right? Because all my scenes were with Zoe. And then I think the week later I had booked something else, and so we went back to Class of '07 and tried to get them to come on board a little, and they did. They offered me the role of Amelia, and I was so happy to be on board because, yeah, like I said, it's rare enough to book a job, but it's even rarer to book one that you love. So I was stoked to be on board.
You were stoned to be on board, Megan Smart, and as you just mentioned, it is all about the immediacy, exactly like the first scenes where Amelia is talking to Geneviève Tuc, and she is escaping that verbal exchange through a miraculous phone call from Danny Chapman himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this mysterious character of Danny, and that sort of starts the mystery, right? Of why did Amelia leave high school, which we find out later in the series. But that sort of sets that first question with Genevieve.
Absolutely, Megan Smart. A lot of questions are positioned on the ground at the very beginning. And there is also another friend that you are seeing that is an exquisite nail technician. And I made some researches about these jobs that consist of delivering high quality manicures and nail treatment. A job that requires a lot of delicacy, not to mention having to handle conversation better than I try to do on VH Berries.
That's true. They're part nail technician, part therapist. It's like a hairdresser, right? The part therapist, part hairdresser.
On a class of '07, there is, as I just mentioned, a lot of comedy, but also I feel that there is a thriller and horror vibe to it because of the catastrophic event that are happening. Can you tell us a little bit more about this fusion of genres?
Yeah, it's a rather unique tone, the show, because it does oscillate between I mean, we sort of saw it more, I guess, as a oscillating between a drama and a comedy. Even though it's a comedy first and foremost, there is that dramatic element to it. And in the series, Casey Anning, the showrunner, directed every single episode, so it was great to have that really consistent voice and lens throughout the series, which I think she did really, really well. But in every comedy, you have your clown and your zany characters, and then you have your straight man, and that's often the duo in the comedy. And I played the straight man, so Casey would often say to me as my character's manifesto, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by pigeons. So that was something that we kept in mind for my character a lot. And Amelia is the character that you see, or the audience should see through, so that she's the character that the audience can connect to probably the most, because she's living more in the real world, whereas the other characters are up here in zany world. But that drama or that emotional thread really does come through, or the heart of the show comes through that relationship between Zoe and Amelia, and how their estrangement and them coming back together, and how they're navigating that. So it's the love story. It's the love story of the piece, and you have the love triangle, if you will, between Zoe, Amelia, and oh my goodness, Caitlin Stacey's character, Saskia, and so that's sort of the emotional heart of the piece. And then you have the comedy side is surviving the apocalypse and all the crazy things that we do, and it sort of goes into cartoon. Am I saying that correctly? Cartoon humor a little bit, things that are so unrealistic, but you kind of just go with it, and that was the tone of the piece. So it is quite unusual, and that was part of why I liked it so much. It was something a bit high concept that we don't often do in Australia. It felt like it was more on a worldwide scale, or more of a worldwide product that we don't often do.
A product that we are not often doing. Megan Smart and Amelia, as you just mentioned, is very relatable, because she is having a normal life by, for example, cultivating peanuts. But in the case of the storyline, she is really taking important actions. For example, unplugging the music, or using a bag of netball to rescue your former schoolmates.
That's right. Yeah, she was the one calling everybody to action, and she was the one saying, let's survive. So I think if Saskia wasn't there, she might have been the leader, but she also is a reluctant leader in a way. So she was happy to pass that on, but she knew what needed to be done, and she was used to, doing that and being the hard love, the tough love.
In definitive, Amelia is a reluctant leader, and a leader also means, in some situations, to not take actions. For example, in episode 5, when she is the only person on the screen to not voluntarily participate in the paper ball throwing.
Oh, the which one? The paper ball throwing. I don't remember. What's that?
Absolutely, Megan Smart in the middle of Class of '07. In episode 5, there is a scene in which all the students are throwing paper balls in a church.
Oh, yes, at in the trial. Yes, that's right. We're trying to put Saskia on trial for something that she's done. And even though my character really doesn't like Saskia, she has a very strong sense of justice, and that justice wins out at the end of the day. And she volunteers to defend Saskia in this absolutely ridiculous mockery of justice system. And they have a trial for Saskia. So even though I don't like her, I stand up for her because it's the right thing to do. I love that episode so much. And I always thought that I was born to play a lawyer or a cop. And so that was my first time playing either of those things. And I had this stupid gold blazer with these pointy bits on it that we had rationaled that my character had found in the dress-up box at the school. There was a lot of costumes found from the drama department in the school. But I had a lot of fun walking around that stage and harassing the witnesses and getting down to the truth. That was a lot of fun to shoot.
It was a lot of fun to shoot that episode 5, Megan Smart. And you also mentioned the word justice, and on the set of Class of '07, it was made, this justice was directed by Casey Anning, and I would love to discuss about the Anning directing fingerprint. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and about your favorite moments?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, Casey, like, what a huge achievement to do that show. You know, it's been her baby from forever. So she came up with the concept, worked with the producer, Mimi Butler, to get that up and did all the writers' rooms. And it was the first Amazon original narrative for Australia. So a huge deal for us down under. And then Casey directed every single episode, and we did not shoot in order either. So we shot all 8 episodes at a time. So you might go from episode 1, scene 1 to episode, how many are there? 8. Episode 8, scene 50. And she kept that all in her head. And we also shot during COVID, a wave of COVID. So everybody was going down left, right, and center. And it was also La Nina, I can't even remember now, but it was a huge weather event, and it rained pretty much every day. So you'd schedule the week and you'd wake up and it would all go out the window because you'd be standing on the Oval about to shoot a scene and it would just bucket down rain, or someone would test positive to COVID and you have to write them out of a scene. And it was an absolute, probably the craziest shoot I've ever done. I have never shot so fast or so wild and by the seat of your pants. Okay, quickly, we're going to go do this scene. Quick, go learn the lines. And you don't have time to leave the room, so you have to learn it right there and right now. And we're going to do it in one take. Go. And we've already an hour behind. So, yeah, you have no time. You'd wake up on the day as well, and there's meant to be 5 stunts in the scene. And then we would have no time, so there'd be suddenly one stunt in the scene. And then she wrote most of the episodes as well. So she was really so across it and had such a clear vision of what she wanted, and was really steering that ship with such a clear vision. And not an easy task at all, a mammoth task.
A very clear vision, and as a matter of facts, both Casey Hennings, Megan Smart, and Amelia were having a sense of resourcefulness, exactly like
That's
Amalia when she's
That's so
correctly guessing Cleopatra from her partner.
That's right. And we often said, as we were shooting, it was a little bit like life imitating art in a way, because, they're stuck in this, what felt like an apocalypse, and they could only speak to each other. They only had each other. And we sort of felt like, obviously not the same, but that was a little bit like how we were shooting, because of COVID, we weren't allowed to go and we weren't allowed to go out in public. We could only associate with the cast, and it was too real. It was exactly like the girls. And then with all the weather and the COVID, it felt almost apocalyptic, and we were in this bubble, not able to speak to anybody else. So it was very easy to relate to the characters in that sense.
Absolutely, Megan Smart. It was very easy to relate to the characters that you were all portraying on the set of Class of 07. And I just made a parallel with the game that another character named Amalia played in the feature film Choose Love. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and about the answer, Cleopatra?
So we're playing, I forget what the game is called. Is it, it's Taboo. Is it Taboo? Yeah. Yes, that's it. Where you're not allowed to... It's actually one of my favorite games, and I love board games, and I'm very competitive, and I take them very seriously, and I love Taboo, and I'm actually very good at Taboo in real life, I have to say. So you have the word that your partner has to guess, but you also have all these words that you're not allowed to say on a card, and then you have 30 seconds or whatever to get as many of these cards in a row as possible. And that was actually my audition scene, that scene. And I auditioned for Choose Love while we were shooting Class of 07. And I guess that was the answer that the character had to guess was Cleopatra.
Additionally, Megan Smart, I would love to talk about Choose Love, because I am sure that this concept has been done before, for example, in books and novels. But personally, this is the first time that I was witnessing an interactive romantic comedy film. Can you tell us a little bit more about that unique concept and format?
Yeah, for sure. And like you say, Netflix had done it before with Black Mirror, a little bit of choose your own adventure. And it is, as you say, like the storybooks that you read as a kid. I loved those books as a kid where if you go through the cave, go to page 8. If you go around the cave, go to page 12. You feel like you're participating in the story more. Well, obviously more than reading it. And so Netflix had done, I think it's called Bouldersnatch, the episode of Black Mirror where you choose what happens a little bit. I actually have not seen it, but that's what people tell me. And so this was their first feature film version of that. And it was from the writer of Runaway Bride, who obviously is very experienced writing rom-coms. And in this version of Choose Your Own Adventure, Cami, the lead character, has 3 love interests, and you get to choose along the way which direction she's going to go in. So, for example, she catches up with this old fling and he leans in to kiss her, and you get to decide whether she kisses him back or not, which is really fun. And I think there's something like 16 to 30 different endings. I can't remember. I was going to say 16 or 32, but that's just doubling 16. So I'm not sure in my little dyslexic brain which one it is. And so I mean, I don't know how Cami and the director did that, because keeping those threads of storyline in your head was no easy task. You'd shoot maybe like 5 different versions of a similar scene, the same scene, and trying to remember where you had come from and where you were going was very confusing. And they did so well at going, okay, so for this version of the scene, you've done this and you're going here. And keeping all those threads of storyline in your head was insane. I think the algorithm that they had written for that must have been very complicated, but it was a pretty cool challenge to do that as well.
It was a very cool challenge, and personally it was a very cool movie to witness. And the feature film has exactly 6 possible endings that branch from
it's 6
viewer decisions. What is...
Is it only 6? I feel like there's more than that.
What is your favorite one?
I think there's at least 16. My favorite one, I chose Rex. I definitely chose Rex. He's a rock star. I thought he was like fun, a bit of a bad boy. Yeah, I went for Rex. I hear he was a bit of a crowd favorite, actually, from the producers.
Absolutely, Megan Smart, you are choosing Rex. And to now make a transition to your personal journey, I am retaking a quote from Zoe from class of 07, which is... How have you been for every minute of every day for the last 10 years?
What a question, and where to begin, how to answer that. Where shall I begin, Victor?
You could, for example, begin with the places where everything started, in the city of Brisbane.
That's right. So I grew up in Brisbane in Queensland, which is very hot and tropical, and probably not one of the bigger cities in Australia. Well, yes, big-ish, but not your top 3, I guess. And I always wanted to be an actor, but I didn't really know how to get into it, and my parents were very supportive, but not from that world. And so I said, well, I guess I'll go to drama school and learn how to learn the craft of it and the technique of it. And that was always my goal, because I felt as though I wanted that solid foundation, and that was going to give me the confidence to hit the ground running when I went into the industry, and that's absolutely what it gave me. So I auditioned 3 times to get into drama school, and finally on the 3rd time, when I was 19, I got into WAAPA, which was my first choice, which is a drama school 5 hours on a plane on the opposite side of the country in Perth, which is an even smaller town than Brisbane. So I jumped on a plane and went over there and did 3-year course at WAAPA and had the absolute time of my life. it was like being in a movie. You know, the movies that you watch as a kid, like of those drama schools, you'd walk down the halls, and in the first studio there's the ballerinas warming up, and then there's the opera singers and the costume makers and the actors and the musical theatre students. It was a place of dreams, really. You know, I pinched myself, and I feel so grateful and lucky that I got to do something that I love every single day and dedicate every day of 3 years to do that. And it was incredibly challenging. We worked so many hours and worked so hard, and it was incredibly stressful and challenging, but it was also incredibly rewarding and joyful. And I made friends for life there and learned so much about, if nothing else, learned so much about myself and had an amazing time and grew so much as a person, matured and developed as a person. So then, and it was wild. We partied hard as well. You know, you only know 60 odd people in Perth. There's 20 students in every grade. So we got up to a lot of mischief as well. And then we graduated, and I moved to Sydney in Australia, and I graduated in 2016, came to Sydney, got an agent. We do the big showcase, and it was funny at the time because you don't know, who knows who's going to work in this industry. It's one of those things. What is that thing that makes someone work over someone else? I still couldn't tell you, you know. And there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. So you don't know if you're going to work or not. But I graduated hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. And I remember leaving. I bawled my eyes out when I left. I was so sad to leave. But I remember thinking, well, I may never act again. So thank God I got to do this for 3 years. But I actually had booked my first role when I was at drama school. Simon Baker, who you would know from The Mentalist, had his directing debut down in a little tiny town called Denmark, WA, Denmark in Australia, not the country. And they needed someone who was fairly local. Yeah, not that exotic. Fairly local to go down and be a hippie on the back of the truck, and I have this kind of crazy curly hair, and I was that character's the protagonist's first experience on camera with not the first one, gosh, it was a long time ago, but the bridging character. He first sort of has an experience with a young girl in his grade, and that's his first experience, and then someone a little bit older who was me, and then someone a little bit older again, played by Debicki. So I was the bridging character for that. That's what my character symbolized, and that was my first ever time on a film set, and God, I was so spoiled. It was so magical, and it was such a life-affirming moment to be on that set and go, yeah, this is it for me. This is what I'm meant to be doing, want to be doing, cannot do anything else. I'm absolutely obsessed with. A really gratifying moment after training. So I finished that while I was studying, and then moved to Sydney after that. And that's where I've been based myself out of for the last however many years.
In conclusion, Brisbane had a very hot weather with little to no winter, which was already a very important sign for the black snow. And I am very excited, and I'm looking forward to witness the season 2 of that program. Thank you very much, Megan Smart.
My pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.